How do you transform talent into triumph? I think it's the same way that you transform tragedy into triumph. And there is one major key. I'm sure you've heard about it. But if I were to press rewind and start with something incredible, I would love to tell you the greatest of all time revenge fantasy. But I was reminded today of the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it is 180 years old this year. I just found out actually that I think it's August 28th will be the 180th anniversary since it was published. But the Count of Monte Cristo, written by Alexander Dumas, was discovered by me. No, I was given this book, I don't know, 20 some years ago. Tiny little book because I read it on a 21-day backpacking trip. At the time, I was somewhere deep in the Appalachians in West Virginia on a wilderness therapy course I was leading and guiding. And those courses often had a 3-day solo, and we would send out all the kids basically 3 days of isolation, doing something they never thought they could do, and we would provide food and water for them. And during that time, which was also a little bit of a break and rest for us instructors, I just devoured this book, and it has been one of my favorite ever since. And it's based on a true story, interestingly enough, but it is the classic revenge story and rags to riches story all rolled into one, of tragedy into triumph. And what's interesting is one of the underlying themes is turning tragedy into triumph. But I think a deeper layer is one that I was just really pondering today, of how you turn talent into triumph. And the story, without going into great detail, is just about a young man, Edward Dantes, who is betrayed by his very best friend, who basically he gets accused of high treason in a dangerous political climate during the French Revolution and Napoleon. And his best friend wants the one thing he can't have, which is Dantes's, the woman he's engaged to be married to. And the other guy is secretly in love with her, and so he basically tries to get Edward out of the picture so that he can marry the girl. Everyone thinks Edward dies in this conspiracy plot, but really he's actually taken captive as a political prisoner and sent to the Chateau d'If, an island in exile, as a political prisoner. And while he's on this island, imprisoned in solitary confinement, he, after years, I don't know how long he's there, one day a man pops up in his cell who was apparently trying to dig his way to freedom out of the chateau, the prison, but he'd gone the wrong way, and so he ends up in Dantes's cell. And so together they become deep friends, and they decide to try to escape together. But in the process, this man teaches Dantes, who is just basically a peasant boy, all the things that he knew. And so he teaches him not just was French, the key language, that they were French at the time, but multiple languages. And he teaches him swordsmanship and how to duel. He teaches him just manners. He teaches him how to engage in culture. He teaches him how to navigate. You name it. They basically come up with their own curriculum in prison. And with no hope of escaping, really, he imparts everything he knows to Dantes. In the final dying days, he also imparts to him a secret map to a treasure on an island. And as it happens, Edward falls in with pirates. He ends up getting this treasure, making him impossibly wealthy. And the rest of the book is about how he exacts revenge on everyone, because there was a number of key people that had destroyed his life. And so as a tale of this rags to riches and a tale of revenge, you go along for this journey. And for me, what I love, first of all, it's a really fascinating book to me because I have just loved survival stories for years and years. I am fascinated by them. And I've read hundreds of survival stories, whether that was on the high seas, surviving in rafts for an improbable number of days, whether it's surviving solitary confinement, whether it's surviving storms in the mountains, I've just been really fascinated by what it takes to survive difficult circumstances. And along the way, I've realized that the same skills it takes to survive these almost impossible odds are also what it takes to go from mediocrity to excellence and to succeed and live your dreams even in normal life, so to speak. And so what's profound about this story is how there is not just this survival component in prison of Dantes escaping, but there is this simple thing. One of the simple keys of success is how perseverance and grit, as Angela Duckworth does incredible research. She studies her, I just gave away her book, the audiobook the other night to this young man that we've adopted into our family. And her book is called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. And she studies all of these paragons, highly successful people, trying to find out what distinguishes them, how they became successful. The key that she found was that grit, or in really rough terms, is hard work and consistency. Grit counts twice. It counts twice as much as your talent. She comes up with this fancy formula, which is your talent plus your effort is what gets you equals your skill. And then refine your skill by effort gives you achievement. You really begin to see clearly that it isn't just the talented people in life that make it and are successful. It's the ones that commit to developing their skills, to showing up. And for me, when I think of grit, I think of consistency. I think of slogging in. I just think of consistency. And that means consistently showing up to practice, consistently doing what needs to be done on a regular basis. And my challenge to you is to really look at your life and where you want to be successful, whether it's relationships, whether it's in your health, and whether it's in your finances. Look at what you can do to show up, what you can do to take another step in the same direction. There was a great book years ago written, the title just fascinated me. It was called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And it was a religious book, but there's something about that title that grips me, of like just holding the course long after others have fallen and maintaining that course. And that's something I'm working on in my life. That's why I'm even doing these videos, because I'm just reminding myself of how important this is in success and being diligent to show up. And if you've ever wondered why it is that the road to success isn't just this nice, steady climb, but it has these weird leaps and boring sections, and then huge leaps of accomplishment, and then long stretches of nothing. I want to delve into that. And if you've never thought of it, it's a key. It is something profound about transformation and success, is that there is no linear growth track. It comes in these spurts, incredible spurts. Thanks so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the days ahead.